There are places in this country that have never been mapped. Not really. Not the way you think of mapping. You can pull up a satellite image of almost any patch of land in America and see the tree canopy from above. You can zoom in until you are looking at individual clearings. But that is not knowing a place. The hunters know this. The people who go out before first light and sit in stands 40 feet up in trees and wait for hours without moving. They know that a map is not a forest, that what a satellite sees from above and what exists at ground level between those trees are two completely different worlds. I have been hunting since I was 11 years old. My father taught me. His father taught him. It is not a hobby for me. It is the longest continuous thread in my life. The smell of cold air and pine and the specific stillness of a forest before sunrise is as familiar to me as anything I know. I thought I knew my hunting land. I thought I knew what was out there. I was wrong. What my trail camera recorded over a period of 6 weeks on my property in Harlan County, Kentucky, has never been fully explained. Not by the sheriff's office, not by the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife, not by the 2 investigators who came out and walked the land and spent 2 days going through the footage. Not by anyone. This is what the camera saw, and this is what I found when I went looking for answers. My name is not important. What is important is that I own 43 acres of mixed hardwood and pine in Harlan County in the southeastern corner of Kentucky. I have owned it for 11 years. I hunted every season, deer, turkey, sometimes bear. I know every trail on it. I know where the deer bed and where they water, and which stands are productive in which wind conditions. I set my first trail camera on that property 8 years ago. I now run 7 cameras year-round. If you are not a hunter, let me explain what that means. Trail cameras are motion-activated cameras mounted on trees. They photograph or video anything that moves in front of them. Deer, turkey, raccoon, bear, coyote. They run on batteries and store footage on SD cards that you pull and review. They are how hunters pattern animal movement, learn where animals go, when they go there, and what the local wildlife population looks like. In 8 years of running cameras on my property, I have captured thousands of images. Deer, bear, a mountain lion once that I still have the footage of, a bobcat, foxes, every species you would expect in southeastern Kentucky hill country. I had never captured anything that made me uncomfortable until the fall of the year I am about to describe. I set my cameras in September, as I always do, pre-season scouting. 7 cameras in 7 locations, fresh batteries, formatted SD cards, positioned at trails, scrapes, and food sources. Camera 4 was positioned on a ridge trail about a quarter mile from my cabin. It was a good location, a natural funnel where the terrain pushed deer movement through a narrow gap between 2 rock formations. I had taken 3 good bucks off that ridge over the years. I pulled the SD card from camera 4 on the 1st of October. What I found on it changed everything. The first 3 weeks of footage were normal. Deer, a black bear on September 14th at 11:22 p.m., a good-sized boar, probably 280 pounds. Several doe groups moving through in the early morning. A coyote, a turkey flock on September 19th. Normal. Everything exactly as I would expect. Then September 23rd, 2:47 a.m. The camera triggered. The image showed the trail, the rock formations on either side, the leaves on the ground lit by the camera's infrared flash, and at the edge of the frame,
barely in frame, as if whatever triggered the camera had just moved into its detection range, a shape. I want to be careful about how I describe this because I have thought about it many times and I want to be precise. It was not a deer. The shape was wrong for a deer, too upright, too narrow at the bottom, too wide at the shoulders. It was not a bear. Bears on camera have a very specific silhouette, low, wide, heavy. This was not that. It was bipedal. It appeared to be standing upright on two legs, and it was large. Using the rock formations as reference, formations I know because I have walked past them hundreds of times and I know their scale, whatever this was, stood between 6.5 and 7 feet tall. I looked at that image for a long time. Then I told myself it was a trick of the infrared, a deer at an odd angle, a shadow that resolved into a shape that looked like something it was not. I went back out and checked the camera, made sure it was functioning correctly, put a fresh SD card in it, and I waited.
October 7th. I pulled the card again. 14 days of footage. Nothing unusual for the first 10 days. Deer movement. The bear again on October 3rd. Raccoons at night. October 5th, 3:19 a.m. The camera triggered again. This time, the shape was closer. Not at the edge of the frame, in the center of the frame. On the trail, standing still. I will describe what I saw as precisely as I can. Bipedal, upright, approximately 6.5 to 7 feet in height. The infrared image was black and white, with the characteristic grain of a night vision shot. Not high definition, not crystal clear, but clear enough. The figure appeared to be facing the camera, not moving, not passing through, standing still, facing the camera. In the 8 years I had run cameras on that property, I had captured thousands of images. Deer look at cameras sometimes, briefly, curious, then moving on. Bears sometimes stop and investigate a camera. They are curious animals and can smell the housing. This figure was not investigating the camera. It was standing in front of it, still, facing it directly. The timestamp showed it had been there, at that spot, in that position, for 11 minutes before the camera's motion trigger reset and it captured a second image. The second image was identical to the first. Same position, same stillness. Then a third image, taken automatically at the camera's interval setting. The trail was empty. Whatever it was had left in the time between the second and third image, perhaps 30 seconds. It had stood on that trail in front of my camera for at least 11 minutes. I did not go back out to check that camera that day. I sat in my cabin and I thought for a long time about what I had seen. And then I called my hunting partner, a man named Ray who has hunted with me for 15 years, and I told him I needed him to come look at something. Ray came out 2 days later. I showed him the 2 sets of images, September 23rd and October 5th. He is not a man who startles easily. He served 2 tours in Afghanistan. He has been in the woods his entire life. He has seen things in the natural world that would unnerve most people, and he takes them in stride. He looked at the images for a long time without saying anything. Then he said, "That is not a deer." I said, "I know." He said, "That is not a bear." I said, "I know." He said, "How far is that camera from the cabin?" I said, "A quarter mile." He was quiet for another moment. Then he said, "I want to look at the other 6 cameras." We pulled all 6 remaining SD cards that day. Cameras 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. Nothing unusual. Normal wildlife. Normal movement patterns. Camera 7. Camera 7
was positioned near the eastern boundary of my property, closest to the county road that ran along that edge. I had placed it there to monitor a doe group that used a trail along the fence line. Camera 7 had captured the same figure 3 times. October 1st at 1:44 a.m., October 4th at 2:08 a.m., October 6th at 3:31 a.m. Each time, the figure appeared on the trail near my eastern fence line. Each time it was moving, not standing still the way it had on the ridge trail for camera 4, moving along the fence line, along the boundary of my property, moving parallel to the county road, like something that knew where the property ended, like something that had learned the boundaries. I called the Harlan County Sheriff's Office. I want to tell you how that call went because I think it matters. The deputy who came out was professional and thorough. He looked at every image. He asked good questions: size reference, location on property, nearest neighboring property, any recent trespassing history. I had never had trespassing issues in 11 years. He walked the ridge trail with me. We found the location where the camera had been positioned, and we looked at the ground. The trail there was soft, a mix of forest soil and leaf litter. In the weeks of October rain we had been getting, it held impressions reasonably well. We found deer tracks, bear tracks from the boar I had been monitoring, raccoon prints along a log. We found no human footprints. In the area directly in front of the camera, the area where the figure had stood for at least 11 minutes, the leaf litter was undisturbed. The soil beneath it, where we scraped the leaves aside, showed no impressions. The deputy wrote everything in his report. He photographed my camera images. He told me he would flag it with Fish and Wildlife. Before he left, I asked him if he had any theory about what I had captured. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I've been a deputy in Harlan County for 19 years. I've taken 3 other reports like this. Not identical, but similar. Footage that doesn't make sense. Things in the woods that shouldn't be there." I asked him what had come of those reports. He said, "Nothing. Nothing ever came of them." He drove away, and I stood at the edge of my property and looked into the trees. And then I went inside and locked the door. I want to tell you what happened next because it is the part of this story that I find hardest to explain away. After the deputy's visit, after I had reported it, after Ray had seen the images, after I had spent 2 weeks trying to find a rational explanation, I made a decision. I was going to add more cameras. Not to hunt, not to scout for deer season, specifically to try to capture whatever was on my property on better equipment, in better positions, with better coverage. I spent 3 days repositioning cameras and adding 3 new ones I bought specifically for this purpose. High-definition cameras, faster trigger speeds, better infrared range. I set up overlapping fields of view so that anything moving through certain areas would be captured by multiple cameras simultaneously. I set the cameras on October 18th. On October 22nd, 4 days later, I went out to check them. Camera 4 on the ridge, the original camera, had been moved. Not damaged, not knocked down by an animal. Moved, deliberately. The camera was still strapped to the tree, but it had been rotated approximately 90 degrees on its mount. Instead of facing the trail, it now faced directly into the rock formation, pointing at solid rock. It would capture nothing. The strap had been loosened and retightened. Someone with hands had done this. The SD card was missing. The SD card had been removed from the camera. I stood at that tree and I looked at the rotated camera and the empty SD slot, and I felt something settle into my chest that has not fully left since. Whatever was on my property knew the camera was there, and it had done something about it.
I called Ray immediately. He was there within the hour. We checked all remaining cameras together. 3 more had been tampered with. Not rotated like camera 4, but angled slightly, just enough to change their field of view. A camera that had been covering a 12-foot section of trail now covered 8 feet of it, the left side of the frame now pointing at undergrowth instead of the trail. Subtle, the kind of adjustment that if you weren't looking carefully, if you hadn't memorized exactly where each camera had been pointed, you might not notice. But we noticed. 4 cameras adjusted, 1 SD card removed. Ray looked at me and he said, "Whatever this is, it's smart." I said, "I know." He said, "Smart enough to understand what a camera is and what it does." I said, "I know." We did not hunt my property that season. I'm not ashamed to say that. I have been hunting for 30 years. I have been in the woods in all conditions, in all seasons, in all kinds of weather. I have encountered bears at close range. I have had a mountain lion follow me out of the woods once. I could hear it in the brush, and I made it to my truck. I did not hunt my property that season.
In November, a month after the camera tampering, 2 investigators from Kentucky Fish and Wildlife came to my property. I had submitted a formal report with copies of all the images I had retained: the September 23rd image, the October 5th images, the camera 7 footage. The investigators were professional and thorough. They spent 2 days on the property. They walked every trail. They checked every camera location. They took soil samples from the area in front of camera 4 where the figure had stood. On the second day, one of them, a woman named Dr. Patricia Hawes, who specialized in wildlife research, asked me if I had heard the term habituation. I said I had heard it in the context of bears, when a bear loses its fear of humans from repeated exposure. She said that the behavior pattern in my footage, the repeated appearances, the proximity to the cabin, the apparent awareness of the cameras, was consistent with a pattern that had been reported in certain wildlife encounters in Appalachian counties. She would not say what kind of encounters. I asked her directly. I said, "What are you talking about? What do you think is on my property?" She looked at me for a long time. She said, "I think you should continue to document. Keep your cameras running, but I would advise against spending time alone on this property at night for the time being." I said, "Is it dangerous?" She paused. She said, "We don't know enough to say that confidently, but the behavior pattern suggests something territorial, and territorial behavior in any species can escalate when the territory feels threatened." She left the next day. I have not received a formal report from Fish and Wildlife. I have followed up 3 times. Each time I am told the investigation is ongoing. That was 14 months ago.
Let me tell you what has happened since the investigators left. I did not abandon my property. I love that land. I have owned it for 11 years, and I intend to own it for the rest of my life. But I hunt it differently now. I do not go out alone before first light anymore. Ray goes with me, or I do not go. We do not sit stands on the eastern boundary or on the ridge near where camera 4 was. We are back at the cabin before full dark. I run cameras still. I always will. The footage has continued. October of last year, almost exactly 12 months after the first images, camera 4 captured the figure again. Same location, same time range, between 2 and 4 a.m. This time, the image was different. This time, the figure was not alone. There were 2 of them, standing side by side on the trail, both upright, both facing the camera. I have not shared those images publicly. I have shared them with Ray and with one other person, a researcher at a university in Virginia who studies unexplained wildlife phenomena and who contacted me after a mutual acquaintance mentioned my case. The researcher looked at the images for a long time. Then he said, "They know the camera is there. They are choosing to be photographed." I asked him why something would choose to be photographed. He said, "That is the question, isn't it?" I have thought about that exchange many times since.
I want to talk about the SD card, the one that was removed from camera 4. SD cards are small, the size of a fingernail. They hold data. They require a specific kind of manipulation to remove. You have to press them in slightly to release the spring-loaded slot, then pull them out. It is a fine motor task. It requires understanding what the card is and what removing it will accomplish. I think about that SD card. It is somewhere on my 43 acres, or it was disposed of somewhere off my property, or it is somewhere I cannot conceive of. On it was footage I will never see. Whatever the camera recorded in the days between when I set it and when the card was removed, I will never know what that was. I think about what was on that card. I think about the figure that stood in front of camera 4 for 11 minutes on October 5th, standing still, facing the lens, and I try to understand what it was doing. Was it curious? Was it communicating something? Was it assessing the camera the same way I assess a new piece of equipment, figuring out what it does, how it works, what it sees, and then, 2 weeks later, removing the card? Having understood in those 11 minutes what the camera was, having decided 2 weeks later to do something about it. I do not have a framework for what I am describing that fits comfortably into the world as I understand it. I am a practical man, a hunter, someone who has spent 30 years in the woods and understands wildlife behavior and the natural world at a level that most people do not. What I captured on those cameras does not fit into my understanding of the natural world, and I have stopped trying to make it fit. The researcher in Virginia has a name for what he studies. He calls them forest people. Not Bigfoot, not Sasquatch. Those words carry cultural baggage, skepticism, a century of sensationalized claims and blurry photographs and people in gorilla suits. He does not use those words. He calls them forest people, and he speaks about them the way an anthropologist might speak about a remote human population that has limited contact with the outside world. He says the evidence he has collected over 20 years of research, from hunters, from hikers, from people who live adjacent to large tracts of undisturbed forest land, suggests something consistent. They are intelligent, more intelligent than any known primate. They are territorial. They monitor their territory, and they respond when that territory is entered or when something changes within it. They avoid contact. Their entire behavioral pattern for potentially thousands of years has been built around not being seen by human beings. The trail camera images I captured may represent what happens when their avoidance behavior and human technology intersect in a way that they have not yet fully adapted to. They learn quickly. The SD card removal and camera adjustments suggest a degree of problem solving that goes beyond what any known animal is capable of. He told me something else that I think about. He said, the reason we have almost no physical evidence of them,
No bodies, no bones, no conclusive biological material, despite thousands of reported encounters over hundreds of years, is not because they don't exist. It is because they have been very, very good at not letting us find that evidence for a very long time.
I still go to my property. I went last month, sat a stand with Ray on the western side, far from the ridge, far from the eastern fence line. We had a normal morning. Deer moved. We heard turkeys in the distance. The woods were the woods. And yet, at one point, it was maybe 6:30 in the morning, first good light, Ray grabbed my arm. I looked at him. He was looking into the trees to the north. His head was slightly tilted. He had heard something. I listened. Nothing I could identify. The wind, some bird movement far away. Then Ray leaned close to me, and he said very quietly, "Something is watching us." I looked into the trees to the north for a long time. I saw nothing, but I believed him, because Ray does not say things like that. Ray has never, in 15 years of hunting together, said anything like that. We sat in silence for about 10 minutes. Then, from somewhere in the trees to the north, not close but not far, a sound. Not a bird, not a deer, not any animal I can name. A low sound, almost like a knock, wood against wood, one time, then silence. Then, maybe 30 seconds later, from a different direction, to the east this time, the same sound, wood on wood, once, like something communicating, like something letting us know it was there. We climbed down from that stand, and we walked back to the cabin, and we did not speak until we were inside with the door closed. Ray looked at me across the kitchen table, and he said, "I believe you now."
I am telling you this story because I want you to understand something. The wilderness of this country is not fully known, not the Appalachian hollows of eastern Kentucky, not the deep timber of the Pacific Northwest, not the swamps of the Florida Panhandle or the bayous of Louisiana or the canyon country of the Southwest, not the boreal forest of Canada or the mountain ranges of the interior. There are places in this country, in this continent, that human beings have not fully mapped in any meaningful sense, places where something could exist and has existed and has chosen over generations, over centuries, to remain unknown. I am not asking you to believe in anything specific. I am asking you to consider the possibility that what we do not know about this world is larger than what we do. I have the images. Ray has seen them. The sheriff's deputy has seen them. The fish and wildlife investigators have seen them. The researcher in Virginia has them and is doing work with them that I hope will someday produce something, some answer, some confirmation, some name for what is on my property. Until then, I will keep running my cameras, all 10 of them now, better equipment, overlapping fields of view, a cellular camera that sends images directly to my phone in real time so that nothing can be removed or adjusted before I see it. I will keep going to my land. I will keep hunting it carefully with Ray in daylight, and I will keep listening. Because whatever is in those woods has been there longer than I have, longer than the cabin, longer than the county road, longer than the town of Harlan itself. It was there before any of us, and I suspect it will be there long after. The only question, the one I fall asleep thinking about some nights, is whether it is still curious about me, the way I am curious about it, or whether that curiosity has become something else, something I do not have a name for.
Something that stands in the dark on a trail in front of a camera for 11 minutes and then comes back with a friend.